In today's video, I'm gonna answer the question on should you purchase a steamer first or an extractor. I'm gonna tell you the pros and cons of each one, which one I think you should purchase first, and which one makes sense depending on your application or what you're using it for. So all the links will be down in the video description box below. Let's go ahead and get started. So for a direct answer comparing an extractor to a steamer, I'm gonna say a steamer is the better option just because the steamer allows for more versatility than an extractor. So even with this spotter that we have here or that full-on extractor, it only does shampoo the fabric surfaces, right? So that's gonna be your cloth material like the seats, the floor mats, the carpeting, possibly the headliner if you have the right machine and attachment. But with the steamer, you can do those surfaces as well. On top of that, you can also do the leather seats, like if you need help cleaning the seams, if you need help cleaning the intricate areas in the plastic, if you need to clean the honeycomb on a door panel, if you need to get gum off of some surface, like the steamer can do a lot more than just the extractor. So for that reason, I would probably say if you have to choose between one or the other, I would go with steamer first, and then when you're able to afford it, when it makes sense, then get the extractor. So let's break it down and give you a few more pros on the steamer. For one, like I said, it's much more versatile for interior detailing. So you can do all bunch of surfaces, leather, plastic, vinyl, the intricate areas in the interior, the rails. You can do so much more as far as getting the grime and debris out of the interior and cleaning it. You can also do other things with the steamer that aren't interior detailing related, right? Like if you just want to use it around your household, around the garage, somewhere like, I don't really use it outside of detailing, but you can use it for many other things around your house because it is just steam. So whatever you need to clean, you can use the steamer around your restroom, the kitchen. Like if you need to use it, it's also there. So that does add to the flexibility or versatility of the steamer. Another pro is that they don't take up that much space. So this is an extractor, this is a spotter. But as you can tell, this doesn't take all that much space. So if you are tight with storage, if you are in a sedan or something and you just can't fit like a spotter or an extractor, well then the steamer shouldn't take up that much space. And again, that just adds to the benefits of carrying a smaller unit compared to an extractor. Now some cons to this, which I can also apply these to the pros because it really depends on the exact unit that you get. But for instance, if you are doing an entire interior and you need the steamer a lot, you're gonna end up probably refilling the tank quite often if you are doing like the whole interior, because these tanks aren't very big. And on top of that, it's like unless you're paying top dollar for it, you're not gonna get a continuous refill steamer, meaning you can keep the steamer running and still refill the water. Neither of these have that option. The one that did have the option was our $1,000 steamer. This one's $200, this one's $400. Both of those aren't gonna carry the continuous refill option. So in that regard, you're gonna have to turn off the steamer, release the pressure, open up the valve, refill it with water, close the valve, turn it back on, wait for it to heat, which it won't take as long to heat as it did the first time because it's already at least somewhat heated up, and then you get back to work. So if you're doing this in a business setting, it could potentially slow you down pretty big. Again, it just depends on the unit that you have because, you know, there's so many options on the market. Like it really depends on the quality and the features that specific unit has that will dictate, well, how many times do you refill the tank? How long do you wait for the refill, right? So like, for instance, I can't remember exactly, but I think it takes like 12 to like 18 minutes for this one to heat up all the way. And I think here, this one takes like 8 to 10 minutes if I'm not mistaken. Now, that doesn't sound too big of a discrepancy, but if you're doing that 3 to 4 to 5 times on the vehicle, depending on the vehicle that you're working on, that can add up into some time. And especially if you're doing this as a business, that's definitely going to impact you. Now, if you're doing this as a hobbyist, you know, you have a bit more time. You can kind of go day after day and do the interior or whatever you're working on. But that is something to keep in mind as far as how many times you're going to have to refill it on the job. And if you are going to primarily use this on the cloth surfaces like the seats and the carpeting and the floor mats, it won't do as good of a job as an extractor. Now you can still get great results, don't get me wrong, but it might take you a bit longer. You'll have to change the process quite a bit, and it will be more manual labor because you're gonna always be agitating essentially. With a steamer, with an extractor, you're kind of just letting it extract. But with this one, you're always in some way gonna be agitating and putting in effort. So you can still get great results. Don't get me wrong. Like when I first started my business back in 2011, I just used a steamer. I had no extractor, and I still had clients that were like blown away by the results. But it did come at its price of just doing more work, putting in more effort to get those results. So it can still work. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, kind of scare you away from that, but it'll just take more work on your end to get those results. Now let's talk about some pros on the extractor. So on this one, it's gonna do a good job at extracting. Of course, depending on your unit. If you're buying like a $100 extractor, that's gonna be different than having a $1,400 extractor, than having a $2,400 extractor, than having, this $500 or $300 spotter. So the results and how you work, it's gonna highly depend on the unit that you have. But it is an extractor, right? So it's gonna do a better job at doing that one specific thing of just extracting cloth and fabric surfaces. So in that regard, it's gonna win. And depending on the unit that you purchase, the tank size might be much bigger, so you can work in a longer period, right? So if you wanted to do, let's say if you wanted to clean or shampoo a 3-row SUV, right? That's gonna be at minimum 8 seats, right? Let's say they're all cloth material. Well, to do all that, and let's say they're pretty dirty, to do it on this steamer, I don't know, you might have to refill 3, 4, 5, 6 times, depending on how bad and how many takes you have to do with the steamer. But on an extractor that has, 5 gallons or 2.5 gallons, you might have to refill once, twice, or 3 times, right? A much decreased frequency than the steamer. Another benefit or a pro is that it's gonna have heating capability. So both these units here are able to heat the water inside. So that's great, right? Because if you're using hot water versus cold water, just by nature, by default, if you're using warm water, it's gonna clean better through the surface material, right? So that's a big plus. If you're working on a dirty interior that you just need to throw everything at it, just also on top of that, adding that it's heated, it's gonna help you out. Now to talk about some cons on extractors, it's literally everything that I said, but it might not work because of the unit, right? So let's say with the heating capabilities, right? On these two, it actually works fantastic. Like both of these hold it's the heat pretty well. Now, depending on the unit that you purchase, maybe the heat dissipates quickly, right? So yes, it has heating capabilities, but once you start pulling the trigger, that heat goes out the window and you're just working with like lukewarm at best water, right? And even when this one, if you hold it too long, it's the heat's gonna go away. You have to let it kind of sit down, let it heat up again, and then go at it again. It does a great job, don't get me wrong, but there's gonna be limitations. So just because you see it has a heater, it doesn't mean that heat is transferring through to your wand, and depending on how long you're pressing that trigger will kind of dictate how long the heater, the water is gonna be heated. So on top of that, if you don't, if you get an extractor or a spotter that doesn't have a big tank size, you're gonna fall into the same situation here where you're gonna have to refill it like 6, 7, 8, 9 times, depending on the size of the vehicle, how dirty it is, and all that good jazz. On top of that, if you do want a good one, it's gonna be pricey, right? Like I said, I think this one's like $1,400. I don't know how much this one is, but I'll link it down below. The one that we have in our van is $1,800 or $2,300. And then when you purchase this, like we upgraded the hose, that way we have more capabilities. This was an additional $500, I believe. So it's not cheap, and because we're doing this as a business, we kind of have that luxury to spend that much because we're making money from it. But if you're doing this as, as an enthusiast, as a hobbyist, you're gonna be quite limited. Not limited, but just doesn't make sense to spend X amount of dollars on this tool when you're using it on your personal vehicle or one vehicle at a time. That's up to you. But those are gonna be some limitations on an extractor. Now look, I know I said it depends a lot, but it truly just depends on the unit that you purchase, right? If you're purchasing a steamer for $100, that's going to be different than purchasing one for $1,400. If you buy a shampoo, a spotter, an extractor for $200, there's going to be a difference between purchasing an $1,800 extractor, and each one can do different things depending on which one you buy. So it just really depends on which one. But as far as just which one is better or which one should come first, I'm gonna always go with the steamer because that's what I use. That's what I see has more versatility, and it really helps out. But it all comes down to the specific unit that you purchase. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helped you out in some way to make a decision to go with either a steamer or an extractor. I don't want to say that one is the end all be all. I just I would say a steamer comes first, and then when possible, because ideally it's great to have both, because you'd want both to clean an interior because they both serve its purpose. But if you just had to choose one, I'd go to steamer first. So thank you very much. You can check the links to the tools and products, or to the tools that I have here, down in the video description box below. Leave a comment. like this video, and I'll talk to everyone on the next one. Bye-bye.